we're going to take a look at the ankle mobility. The ankle mobility when trying to perform a squat is one of the most common things that we're going to find that is going to limit you from hitting your maximum potential. Hey, what's up guys? It's Dr. Joey Rosie. I'm a physiotherapist, strength coach, and the founder of Alinea Performance. Today I want to show you my 3 favorite things of what to do when trying to open up the ankle mobility for allowing you to get into a deeper position of a squat. Now, before we just blindly start throwing things at you, the first one we want to test is, do you have a mobility restriction? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is a simple test. This isn't the only one, but it's an easy one that we want to do, is we want to focus on something that's very easy. Okay, in this test specifically, we want to take our thumb, we want to make a fist, and create a thumb, and we want to put our foot, our toe, about that distance away from a box or a post. And what we want to do is we want to try and lean into it without letting our heel come up off the ground. So as you can see, I'm actually limited. So for me to go any further, I'm going to collapse in and come inward. Now that's not something we want to do. We ideally want our knee to track over the middle toe, or that second toe, not the great toe, but the one right next to it, or even that third toe, if you will. Okay, so as we can see here, I'm limited in this ankle mobility. Now, when taking a look at the ankle mobility, there's a few things we need to take into consideration. Is the limitation, is that range of motion limitation coming from the joint itself, or is it the soft tissue? In this case, going to be the gastroc and the soleus, or the triceps surae. Are those going to be the contributing factor, or is it going to be the joint? Now, with my experience as a therapist, we find that if one is limited, it's ultimately going to lead to a limitation of the other, right? Kind of have that, is what comes first, chicken or the egg? Reason being, if the joint is limited and we're unable to get to that range of motion, then the soft tissue, such as the muscle, is going to also be limited because it's never reaching its full elongated potential. On the contrary, if the muscles are tight and you're unable to get to that range because of that limitation, then the joint sort of stiffens up. So what we want to do is we want to go in there and try to loosen up the joint a little bit and see if that helps. Now, a couple things we can do with this is, if you have any pain or pinching, especially here at the front of the joint, right, at the front of the ankle when coming down, that's a good indication that we have a limitation with the joint mobility, okay? If you're coming down and you have a lot of pain or discomfort in the back, that's going to lead to more of an idea that we're having some limitation here in the back or the soft tissue. Now, if you're like me and you're just limited, and I'm not having any pain or discomfort in either one, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to actually try to loop this band around to focus on the joint mobility and opening that up, making it a little bit easier. So what I want to do is I want to focus on allowing my shin to glide on over, okay? And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to try to hook this band, and it's going to help me out. Now, because of the way our anatomy is and the biomechanics, we actually want this band to be low, right? So I'm going to do it to that same ankle that we were testing. And what I want to do is I want to come up here, and I want to make sure it's not too high up in that shin, right? It's got to be down low, right at the bottom of that crease, okay? And we want the band pulling backwards. It might be hard to tell from this angle, but it's pulling down, right? And that's going to allow us to glide over, okay? So what I'm going to do here at this point is I'm going to make sure my heel is staying down, and I'm just going to lean into it. And what I'm doing is getting a little bit of a distraction. I'm going to come, I'm going to push forward. If we have anything, there's a little handle here. I can push into it a little bit. Now I can really feel that it's real nice and deep. We can come out to the side slightly, come in a little, come out, and we're just going to go into this. And what I'm going to do is, you can even do a couple little pulsing and really a little bit of overpressure. And I'm typically going to spend about 2 minutes total doing this. If you find that you're stiff in both ankles, what I like to do is do a little bit each side. So I'll do maybe 30 seconds or a minute on one side and then switch, and I'll switch back. That way you get to spend a little bit of time on each one. And then we're going to come in. If you have enough time, you want to go in and retest right away. But If you're really limited like me, we know even if I do get a little bit of motion, I'm probably going to be limited as well, and it's not going to clearly just open up that much mobility all at once. So the next thing we want to do is look at how we can focus on opening up that the soft tissue in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this out of the way, and what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to use a little plate. Okay, you can use anything, but what I'm going to do here is now I want to do a little bit of active loading. When we're looking at stretching soft tissue, we know the best way to open up and let soft tissue elongate is by actively loading it and doing more of a dynamic load. In this case, it's going to be an eccentric load or a negative portion where the muscle's contracting but it's pulling apart at the same time. So if you need balance, you can come over here. Now, if you need to, you can do both legs at a time, or if you can, do one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on up, and then I'm going to slowly come on down. I'm going to come back a little bit, come on down, and now I'm at this point where I'm going to go beyond all the way there, and I feel deep stretch right down here, right, this bottom part. And then what I'm going to do, because I don't want to contract it again, I'm going to use my other leg to help lift me up. That way it doesn't tighten it back up. And I'm going to come back down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that at least a good half a dozen times, if not. I typically like to do in sets of 15, do a few rounds of that each side. Remember, if I can't do both, or if you can't do both, or do one at a time, then go ahead and do both together. Especially if you're looking for saving some time, by all means you can do that. The benefit of doing one at a time is it allows you to really hyper focus on one side and really put more stress into one side at a time, which will, in theory, is going to allow us to open up that a little bit more. Now, after having opened that up, open up the joint, we've done a little dynamic loading, focused in on the soft tissue. Now what I want to do is I actually want to focus in and loading it the exact same way that I'm having a limitation in. So we're going in from nice warming up the tissue, opening it up, opening up that soft tissue. Now we want to load it in the same way. And in this case, if I'm having problems with a squat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to spend a little bit of time down there. So in this case, I'm going to find the post. I'm going to get to the exact same squat stance that I train at. Reason being is I don't want to be in a different stance where it's not going to correlate to the most ideal and real world situation. So in this case, I'm going to come, because I'm a more narrow squatter, I'm going to have that same angle, and then what I'm going to do is just slowly lean into each side, spend a little bit of time there, and just going back and forth. Trying to keep that ankle down, that heel down, spend a little time. Very good. All right. Now, after spending a little bit of time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and retest this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right back to the beginning. Okay. Do that same test here in the front. So get my 5 inches, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into it. Okay, so still showing a limitation, right? Still showing a limitation, but I'm closer. Okay, so this is obviously something that I need to work on. Now, it's kind of been something I've kind of neglected, honestly, because I've been squatting. In my last couple blocks, I've been using Olympic weightlifting shoes, which actually help raise that heel some. Now, it's not an excuse. It's something I especially need to know that I need to focus on, but nonetheless, it can happen to therapists too. So I want to focus on really opening that up. So we tested it, did a little bit of things for it, went in for a retest, saw that yes, there was improvement, so that's good. So we know, or I know in this case, that I need to keep working on this to help facilitate that movement and work into that new available range. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to go back through it a couple times and then before I get into my training session. If you found this video helpful, share it with your friends, drop a comment below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.